What it do, YouTube? It's your OG, Mr. Mont. Hitting y'all with another video. This video is going to pertain to Jaron Boots Ennis, possibly facing Errol Spence Jr. or possibly facing Terrence Crawford. And you know how those fights would go. Right now, Boots is he's ranked in the top 3 in all 3 sanctioning bodies, and in the IBF he's ranked number 1, and he has petitioned to become the mandatory in the IBF. You know, when that mandatory would be called, you know, your guess is as good as mine. I've heard them say that, you know, Errol Spence could possibly be stripped of I don't know if it's, I think it's the IBF or either the WBC. I don't know. I think the WBC is the is first in line to call a mandatory, which would be Keith Thurman. You got Keith Thurman is the mandatory in the WBC, I think. Then you got the WBA. You got Montez Stanionis is he the regular champ? And Virgil Ortiz is number 1. So those two are already scheduled to fight. I'm not sure of the date. I don't know if they even given a date yet. But then you got Boots as the IBF number 1, and then you got, I think Virgil Ortiz is the WBO number 1. So Thurman and Boots and Virgil Ortiz, all 3 are somewhere in the top 3 in each sanctioning body, with the exception of I think the IBF doesn't have, they have a 1 and a 3, but not no number 2 ranking. But anyway, even if they were to call the mandatory for Boots to fight either Earl, or if for some reason he'd end up as the mandatory for Bud Crawford, which I think, like I said, I think Virgil is ahead of him. You got Virgil and then you got Boots. But if they were to call a mandatory, would he get those fights? Man, that's that question right there. The answer to that question is worth $1 million. Most people say no. That's one of those. You know, you don't really get a whole lot out of fighting Boots as far as finances go. Be a good fight. I think it would be. It'll draw a huge crowd, whether it was Bud or EJ. But Boots Ennis, he had the skill to beat both of those guys. Both of them. I mean, you talking about a kid that's 5'10", 74-inch reach. I don't even know. I don't even know if he's considered. I don't even know if he's what he's listed as. Whether he's listed as Southpaw or Orthodox, because he doesn't stay in either stance long. He constantly switches. He is what you call a actual switch hitter. You know, and his skills are off the chart. They're off the chart. You know, there's no doubt about that. But most of that is eye test. Can he beat Terrence Bud Crawford? Can he beat Errol Spence Jr. if he were to get those fights? You know, a lot of people like to say that, you know, he beats Bud Crawford hands down, and he would have problems with Errol Spence. You know, I don't know. the reason I have my doubts, which again, this kid is, you know, whoever your favorite fighter is at the 147 division, if he getting ready to fight him, he make you nervous. But uh, one of the things that I think about when I think about Jaron Boots Ennis, and again, I'm not talking down on the young man. I just think that you know the people he's fought so far. You got just say they B level fighters, and I don't think they B level fighters to be real. Then you got A level fighters. Then you got, in my opinion, A plus fighters, which are elite fighters. At the 147-pound division, there's no A level fighters. He'll be going from B all the way up to A plus if he fights Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford. Like I said, they like to say that Boots does everything Terrence Crawford does and does it better. He's younger, more athletic, bigger, for sure. And he's just he just has more tools than Terrence Bud Crawford. That's what they say. But does that mean he can beat the more experienced Terrence Crawford? Boots Ennis is an offensive juggernaut. Ain't no doubt about that. An offensive juggernaut. But you have to take into account who he's been fighting. And by no fault of his own, the kid's been trying to get big fights. Nobody don't want to fight him. That you basically sacrificing yourself for fighting this kid. But you have to think about who he's been fighting, up until this point. And he just basically overwhelms whoever he fights because his offense, his speed, 74-inch reach, his size, all that mixed in together. This kid is just, like I said, his ceiling is off the chart. So all the people he's been fighting, really, they really don't have the speed. They don't have the skills to, show how good his defense really is, or show how he reacts when he really gets hit. Because ain't nobody really landed flush on him. It's been a couple of fights where it looked like they done landed flush, but when you play it back slow, he actually rolls the damn punch. So I don't think the kid has never been hit flush. Now, what happens if he were to fight Terrence Bud Crawford? Does he go in there and, throw the kitchen sink at Terrence Bud Crawford? Somebody who's very, very, a very smart fighter at times. Now, Terrence Crawford he'll get hit and he'll lose his damn mind and, go off the rail, start doing dumb shit. But what would happen if he were to fight Terrence Bud Crawford? Would he go in there and throw his offense, all that offense at Terrence Bud Crawford? Or would he, go behind the jab and, the kid, like I said, the kid flipped back and forth from orthodox to southpaw without even knowing it. How dangerous is that in front of Terrence Bud Crawford? Switching back and forth. That's a good question. So, I don't know. I can't flat out say I think he would beat Terrence Bud Crawford because Terrence Bud Crawford got some big power. And, he will set your ass up. What about Errol Spence Jr.? That fight right there would be tough for Boots Ennis. Now I'm not saying Boots couldn't beat Errol, but Errol Spence's foundation is the jab. And taking his jab away is almost next to impossible. Kell Brook tried to take Errol Spence's jab away by countering it. But that didn't stop Errol Spence from throwing that jab. He kept throwing it and kept throwing it and kept throwing it and kept throwing it and kept throwing it. Can Boots Ennis take Errol Spence's jab? And I know Boots got a good jab from either side. I've seen it. He can jab from either stance. But Errol Spence has one of the best jabs in the division. Can Boots take that jab away from Errol Spence Jr.? His defense is going to be put to the test, sure enough, if he fights Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr., if I had to guess, is going to try to make Boots Ennis fight him. And this is one of the things that always stood out to me when they talk about Boots, is that he can't get good sparring. I mean, how do you get prepared for Errol Spence Jr.? Boots Ennis, along with Terrence Crawford, they both are instinctive fighters. And, they don't, in my opinion, I don't think they follow a particular game plan. They just get out there and, do what they do. And Boots Ennis, within the first 3 rounds, he be done through everything he has in his arsenal. And I'm not saying that he done shot his wad. I'm just saying, you see just about all that young man's skills come out within the first 3 rounds. Orthodox, southpaw, left hooks, right hooks, jab from both sides. This kid does everything within the first 3 rounds. How does that work for him if he got somebody who's right there in his chest, cutting off the ring? These are just questions I'm asking. I don't know if Boots Ennis can beat Errol Spence Jr. I don't know if he can beat Terrence Crawford. I know he has the tools to beat him, but will he beat them if he were to get those fights? And like I said, a lot of people say that, okay, he can do everything that Bud can do, and he's younger, bigger, so he'll run through Bud Crawford. But I don't know about that. I just don't know, because when Bud Crawford get hit and done been hurt a few times, that motherfucker get up and whoop your ass. What's gonna happen if Boots get hurt? He'd have to worry about if Bud hurt him, Bud finishing him. And he's one of those guys that fights at his own pace. It's a pretty good pace, because he's throwing all types of offense at you. Can he control the pace against Errol Spence Jr.? I know they say he got a gas tank, but do he got the Errol Spence Jr. type gas tank? These just questions, man. Y'all know what I'm saying? What do you guys think? Do you think that with his lack of competition, as far as the guys he done fought, does the eye test show y'all that he could beat Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Bud Crawford? Now, I know he got the tools to do it, but when his defense comes into play, is his defense top-notch when he's fighting somebody like Errol Spence Jr., who's offensive as a motherfucker? Does he throw all his offense at Bud Crawford, who will sit back and wait for you to do that and set you up? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I think Boots Ennis is ready for both guys, and if he were to fight them, those would be some hell of a fights. Those would be hell of a fights. Both of them. Both are tremendous fights. So, I mean, that's all I got. I just thought that was an interesting question. The question has been asked 50 million times. People have their opinion about it, but that's mine. Uh, and that's all I got, guys. Uh, salute to the mighty LDBC. It's your OG, Mr. Munt, and I'm out.